Welcome back to Ighoud Ceramic Tiles. Today we're going to walk through, from beginning to end, exactly how to install porcelain tiles on a bathroom floor the professional way. Bathroom floors are one of the most demanding surfaces in any home. They deal with constant moisture, temperature changes, foot traffic, and cleaning chemicals, so getting the installation right the first time is absolutely essential. A poorly installed bathroom floor can lead to loose tiles, cracked grout, water leaking into the subfloor, mold growth, and expensive repairs down the road. On the other hand, a properly installed porcelain floor can last for decades with almost no maintenance beyond regular cleaning. In this video, we are going to cover everything: choosing the right porcelain tile for a bathroom, preparing the subfloor, waterproofing, planning your layout, mixing and applying thin set mortar, laying the tiles, cutting tiles around the toilet flange and drain, checking for level and lipage, curing time, grouting, sealing, and finally cleaning and maintenance. By the end of this video, you will understand not just the steps, but the reasoning behind each one, so that you can adapt the process to your own bathroom, no matter its size or shape. Whether you are a homeowner planning a do-it-yourself renovation, or a professional tiler looking to refine your technique, this guide is designed to give you a complete, no shortcuts breakdown of the entire process. Why porcelain is the right choice for bathroom floors. Before we get into the installation itself, let's quickly talk about why porcelain tile is such a popular and practical choice for bathroom floors specifically. Porcelain tile is made from a denser, more refined clay than standard ceramic tile, and it's fired at a much higher temperature. This process makes porcelain extremely hard, very low in porosity, and highly resistant to water absorption. In fact, most porcelain tiles absorb less than 0.5% of water by weight, which makes them nearly waterproof on their own. This is a huge advantage in a bathroom, where water is constantly present on the floor from showers, sinks, and general use. Porcelain is also extremely durable and scratch resistant, which means it can handle years of foot traffic, dropped items, and cleaning without showing wear. It comes in a huge range of finishes, from matte to polished, from wood look planks to natural stone look large format tiles, giving you enormous design flexibility. Because porcelain is so dense, it does require sharp tools and a bit more care when cutting compared to standard ceramic, but the payoff in durability and water resistance makes it more than worth it. For a bathroom application, tools and materials you will need. Let's go through the complete list of tools and materials before we start, so you have everything ready and don't have to stop halfway through the job. Checkmark porcelain floor tiles. Make sure you order about 10% extra to account for cuts and waste. Checkmark notched trowel. The size depends on your tile size, but a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square notch trowel works well for most standard bathroom floor tiles. Checkmark thin set mortar. Use a modified thin set rated for porcelain tile, since porcelain's low absorption rate requires a stronger bonding agent. Checkmark tile spacers. Choose the spacer size based on your desired grout line width, typically between 1/16 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch for bathroom floors. Checkmark rubber mallet. Used to gently tap tiles into the mortar bed and ensure full contact. Checkmark level. Both a short torpedo level and a longer 4-foot level are useful. Checkmark tile cutter or wet saw. For porcelain, a wet saw with a diamond blade is strongly recommended over a manual snap cutter, especially for precise cuts. Checkmark tile spacers and leveling clips. Leveling systems help prevent lipage between adjacent tiles, which is especially important with porcelain because of its hardness and rigidity. Checkmark grout. Choose either cement-based grout or epoxy grout. Epoxy grout is more water and stain resistant, making it an excellent choice for bathrooms. Checkmark grout float. A rubber-edged float for spreading and packing grout into the joints. Checkmark sponge and bucket. For cleaning excess grout during the grouting process. Checkmark waterproofing membrane. Either a liquid-applied membrane or a sheet membrane, depending on your preference and local building requirements. Checkmark cement backer board or self-leveling underlayment, depending on your subfloor condition. Checkmark measuring tape, chalk line, and pencil, for layout and marking. Checkmark safety equipment, knee pads, safety glasses, and a dust mask, especially when cutting tile. Having all of these tools and materials ready before you start will save you time and prevent frustrating interruptions once the mortar is mixed and working time begins. Step 1. Assessing and preparing the subfloor. The very first and arguably Most important step in any tile installation is preparing the subfloor properly. No matter how beautiful your porcelain tile is, if the subfloor underneath is not solid, flat, and stable, the tile job will eventually fail. Start by removing the old flooring completely, whether that's old tile, vinyl, or carpet. Once you're down to the bare subfloor, inspect it carefully for any signs of damage, rot, or excessive flex. In bathrooms, it's especially common to find water damage around the toilet, shower, or tub area, since these are the zones most exposed to moisture over the years. If you find soft spots, delaminating plywood, or rotted wood, these sections need to be cut out and replaced before moving forward. Installing new tile over a damaged subfloor is one of the most common and costly mistakes homeowners make. Once the subfloor is structurally sound, check for flatness. Porcelain tile, especially large format porcelain, is unforgiving of an uneven substrate. Use a long level or a straight edge to check across the floor in multiple directions. Any dips or humps greater than about 3/16 of an inch over a 10-foot span should be corrected, either with a self-leveling underlayment compound or through localized patching. If your subfloor is plywood, it's standard practice to install cement backer board on top before tiling. Backer board provides a stable, rigid, and moisture-resistant surface for the tile to bond to. Screw the backer board down according to the manufacturer's spacing recommendations, and tape and mud the seams with fiberglass mesh tape and thin set, just like you would with drywall joints. Clean the subfloor thoroughly, removing all dust, debris, and any adhesive residue from the old flooring. A clean, sound, flat, and stable subfloor is the foundation for a bathroom floor that will last for many years without problems. Step 2. Waterproofing the bathroom floor. Bathrooms are unique among rooms in the house because they are exposed to direct water contact on a daily basis. That's why waterproofing the floor before tiling is such a critical step, and it's one that is often overlooked by inexperienced installers. There are two common approaches to waterproofing: A. Liquid applied waterproofing membrane, or a sheet membrane. Liquid membranes are applied with a paint roller or brush directly onto the backer board or subfloor, usually in 2 coats, allowing proper drying time between coats. Sheet membranes are pre-manufactured waterproof sheets that are bonded to the floor with thin-set mortar. Pay special attention to vulnerable areas: the seam where the floor meets the wall, around the toilet flange, around any floor drains, and in the corners of the room. These transition points are where leaks are most likely to develop if waterproofing is done carelessly. Most membrane systems include pre-formed corner pieces and flange seals specifically designed to handle these tricky areas. If your bathroom floor is directly above a living space, or if you live in a climate with significant humidity, taking the time to properly waterproof the floor is not optional, it is essential. Skipping or rushing this step is one of the leading causes of hidden water damage that isn't discovered until it has already caused significant harm to the subfloor or the ceiling below. Allow the waterproofing membrane to cure completely according to the manufacturer's instructions before moving on to tile installation. This might mean waiting anywhere from a few hours to 24 hours or more, depending on the product and ambient conditions. Step 3. Planning the tile layout. Once your subfloor is prepared and waterproofed, it's time to plan exactly how the tiles will be laid out across the room. This step is often rushed, but taking the time to plan properly will make an enormous difference in the final appearance of your bathroom floor. Start by finding the center point of the room, or the most visually prominent wall, such as the wall you see first when entering the bathroom. Snap chalk lines to create a grid across the floor that represents where your tile joints will fall. Dry lay a row of tiles along these lines, using spacers, to see how the layout works out. The goal is to avoid ending up with awkward, very thin slivers of tile at the edges of the room. It's much better to adjust your starting point so that the cut tiles at the edges are roughly balanced and at least half a tile wide wherever possible. This is especially important along the most visible walls, while less visible areas, such as behind the toilet or in a closet, can absorb smaller or more awkward cuts. If your bathroom includes a shower area, decide whether the shower floor tile will be the same as the main floor tile, and figure out how the transition and any slope for drainage will be handled. Also consider the direction of any plank style or rectangular tiles, and whether a running bond, herringbone, or straight grid pattern will be used. Since this affects your layout calculations, taking 30 minutes to properly dry lay and plan your layout can save you from having to live with an unbalanced, unprofessional looking floor for years to come. Step 4. Mixing the thin set mortar. With your layout planned, it's time to mix the thin set mortar that will bond the porcelain tiles to the floor. Because porcelain tile has very low water absorption, it's important to use a modified thin set mortar specifically designed for porcelain, rather than a standard unmodified thin set meant for more absorbent tile types like standard ceramic. Pour the recommended amount of water into a clean mixing bucket first, then slowly add the thin set powder while mixing with a margin trowel or a drill-mounted mixing paddle on low speed. Mix until you reach a smooth, lump-free, peanut butter-like consistency. Let the mixture sit for the manufacturer's recommended slake time, usually around 5 to 10 minutes, and then re-mix briefly before use. This slaking process allows the chemical additives in the mortar to fully activate, resulting in a stronger bond. Only mix as much thin set as you can use within its working time, which is typically around 30 minutes to an hour depending on temperature and humidity. Mixing too much at once often results in the mortar starting to set before you can lay all the tiles, forcing you to waste material. Step 5. Applying the adhesive. Using your notched trowel, apply the thin set mortar to a small section of the floor at a time, following your layout lines. Start by spreading a thin, flat layer with the straight edge of the trowel to ensure good initial contact and coverage, then comb through it with the notched edge held at a consistent angle, usually around 45 degrees, to create uniform ridges. Work in manageable sections, roughly 2 to 3 feet at a time, so the mortar doesn't begin to skin over or dry out before you place your tiles. If you press your finger into the mortar and it doesn't stick, the mortar has skinned over and should be scraped off and reapplied. For larger format porcelain tiles, it's often recommended to back butter the tile as well, meaning you apply a thin layer of thin set to the back of the tile itself in addition to the floor. This technique, called back buttering, significantly improves coverage and bond strength, especially important with dense, less porous porcelain. Step 6. Laying the porcelain tiles. Now comes the most satisfying part. Actually laying the tiles. Place each tile into the mortar bed, pressing down firmly and using a slight twisting or wiggling motion to help it settle and achieve good contact with the ridges of mortar underneath. Then use a rubber mallet, or a beating block with the mallet, to gently but firmly tap the tile down, ensuring it's fully bedded and level with its neighbors. Insert your tile spacers at each corner as you go, maintaining a consistent grout line width across the entire floor. If you're using a tile leveling system, attach the leveling clips at this stage as well, since they help pull adjacent tiles into the same plane and prevent lipage, which is when one tile edge sits slightly higher than the tile next to it. Work your way across the room methodically, checking every few tiles with a level to make sure you're maintaining a flat, even surface. Periodically lift a tile you've just placed to check the mortar coverage on the back. You're looking for at least 80 to 90% coverage, with no large voids, since voids can lead to cracked tiles under load later on. Step 7. Cutting tiles around fixtures. Every bathroom floor involves cutting tiles to fit around fixtures such as the toilet flange, vanity cabinet base, floor drain, and door casing. This is where a wet saw with a diamond blade becomes essential for porcelain, since its hardness makes clean cuts difficult with a manual snap cutter, especially for curved or notched cuts. For straight cuts along walls, measure carefully, accounting for the width of your grout joint and any expansion gap needed against the wall. For curved cuts, such as around a toilet flange, many installers use a compass or a template made from cardboard to trace the exact shape needed, then cut it using a wet saw or a tile hole saw designed for round cutouts. Take your time with these cuts. Rushing this part of the job often leads to visible gaps, poorly fitting pieces, and a final result that looks unprofessional, even if the main field of tile was installed perfectly. Step 8. Checking level and lipage. As you work across the floor, and especially once you've finished a section, go back over it with a level and by hand, running your fingers across adjacent tile edges, to check for lipage. Even small amounts of lipage can be uncomfortable underfoot, difficult to clean, and can even become a tripping hazard over time. If you catch lipage early, while the mortar is still workable, you can often lift the tile slightly, add or remove a bit of mortar, and reset it. Leveling clips, if you're using them, help minimize this issue significantly by mechanically pulling adjacent tile edges into alignment as the mortar cures. Step 9. Allowing proper curing time. Once all the tiles are laid, resist the temptation to walk on the floor or move on to grouting too quickly. thin set mortar typically needs at least 24 hours to cure sufficiently before grouting, though this can vary depending on the specific product, temperature, and humidity in your bathroom. Always check the manufacturer's instructions for exact curing times. During this curing period, avoid any foot traffic on the tiles if at all possible, and make sure the room has adequate ventilation to support proper curing, without extreme heat or excessive humidity that could interfere with the mortar setting correctly. Step 10. Grouting the tiles. After the thin set has fully cured, it's time to grout. First, remove all your tile spacers and leveling clips. Vacuum the entire floor and clean out the joints to remove any dust or debris, since anything trapped in the joints will affect the grout's bond and appearance. Mix your grout according to the manufacturer's instructions, whether you're using cement-based grout or epoxy grout. Epoxy grout is more resistant to staining and water penetration, which makes it an excellent choice for bathroom floors, though it can be slightly more challenging to work